Hello, peace, and welcome to this four-part full reading of Tomorrow Will Answer, Horror and Hope in Palestine by historian of Gaza, Muhammad Jihad Ismael. Here is Muhammad with his family, his wife Gada, his son Jojo, and their young twin daughters Lena and Dina. And they have lived all their lives trying to survive in the small town of Deir al-Balah near central Gaza Territory. Today is Sunday, February 2nd, 2025. I am American historian Dr. Jack Dempsey. Muhammad and I have become like brothers over our 5 years of friendship and works together. You'll find them here at my YouTube channel, 37 Dionysus, and at our cooperative blog at jackdempseywriter.wordpress.com, linked here below. Muhammad asked me to do this reading because either Hamas or Israel or both have now all but destroyed our connection using Zoom. Finally, for now, Muhammad and his surviving family of 10 people have decided to emigrate out of Gaza, a very painful decision for all of them, if they can. And you can help them and their children to find a life with hope of a future by clicking the link here below to our GoFundMe called Support Muhammad Ismael and His Children. We hope that only 2,500 people will share a mere $10 of direct help against the costs of their emigration. Thanks to many caring people, we today are at 34% of our goal, and we hope this extraordinary book, created by Muhammad in the worst possible conditions, will inspire your thought and your action toward peace and open your heart to help them build a new life. Part 1, Tomorrow Will Answer, Horror and Hope in Palestine. Copyright 2024 by Muhammad Jihad Ismael. All rights reserved. I dedicate this book to my family in Gaza, to my martyred younger brother Ahmad Jihad Ismael, to my martyred brother-in-law Muhammad Zayad al-Alem, to my martyred dear friend and the best poet of Palestine, Salim al-Nafar, and to my family in Crete, Jack, Angela, and Vicky. International Standard Book Number, or ISBN, is 979-8218-56323. Forward. In the first Palestinian Nakba, or Catastrophe, of 1948, the grandparents and family of writer and historian Muhammad Ismael were driven at Zionist gunpoint out of their mid-country town, Shaphir, a centuries-old farming community that including a Muslim mosque, a Hebrew temple, and a Christian church, and is now a Jewish-only settlement called Merkaz Shapira. Muhammad's grandmother, pregnant at that time with Muhammad's future father, survived their march of almost 40 kilometers with thousands of other refugees under fire from Israeli aircraft, and gave birth under a tree beside the road. So began 4 generations of family exile in the Gaza Territory. The family named their newborn son Jihad, one who struggles for his people and way of life, and thus his own son Muhammad, born in 1985, received that middle name. The Ismails encouraged Muhammad's love of learning and history, sending him first to the Patriarchate Latin School, a Christian institution in Gaza City, and then to Islamic University, where he earned his Bachelor of Arts degree. As a writer of stories, a novel, and nonfiction journal articles, besides working to support his family of 10 people, Muhammad managed lecture trips to Egypt and Italy after the 2007 imprisonment of Gaza's population. Meanwhile, he labored, in spite of constant poverty and war, to gather little-known accounts of Palestinians who had fled the first Nakba by sea. In 2023, he published his well-recognized Fedai and the Sea, and this new work carries on Muhammad's rigorous interrogations of facts and falsehoods. As he shows in these pages, based on transcripts of multiple interviews in Arabic media, almost nothing in the so-called fog of war is really what it seems to be. What has Muhammad learned from observation and listening to the views and aspirations of his fellow Palestinians? As you will see, his findings challenge myths, assumptions, and misinformation on all sides, and he asks all sides to rise to the truth. As an historian radically dedicated to the struggle in his middle name, Muhammad knows that hope for justice and the revival of ancient peaceful coexistence depend on our courage to face the facts of what is really happening. A note on the English text. As said, I am American writer, editor, and historian Dr. Jack Dempsey, PhD, Brown University, ancientlights.org, and jackdempseywriter.wordpress.com. Muhammad first contacted me 5 years ago after I published People of the Sea, a novel of the Promised Land, in 2017, and as close friends, we have produced over 50 programs on Palestinian subjects and his life experiences. Muhammad translated these Arabic transcripts into his best English and asked me to give them this present form. We welcome your responses to these pages. Peace, now. Tomorrow we'll answer. Question number 1. What is your understanding of the October 7th Hamas attack on Israel? It was not an act of resistance, but a thuggish act of terrorism. I was and remain absolutely against it and cannot accept it. Hamas fighters committed brutal massacres against Israeli civilians, butchering many innocent children, women, men, and elders. This is against Islam and against commandments of our Prophet Muhammad, who put rigid restrictions on Muslim soldiers in warfare. For example, quote, do not kill a child, nor woman, nor elder, nor sick person, nor priest, and do not cut down trees, unquote. Also, this attack further betrayed Palestinians, since the victimized kibbutzes and towns in the western Negev were places of work and sources of income to thousands of Gazan breadwinners. 2. Some people believe that Israel is a fully armed and militarized society. What is your view? This is a stereotype. Of course, Israel has civilians, human beings who include compassionate doctors, poets, music composers, ballet dancers, and kids playing with their toys, like every other society in the world. Israelis are not aliens. 3. Please elaborate your view of the Hamas attack on October 7th. The attack was an insane and suicidal venture. Perhaps Hamas partly intended to force the world beyond any more denial of what is happening to the people of Palestine. Hamas, however, crossed every red line and failed to consider the predictable Israeli reaction. Hamas failed to care about the fate of Gaza's people in the aftermath. The consequences of October 7th have been painful for me and my family. Yet sometimes I shake my head for the ineptitude of what Hamas did, attacking a nuclear-armed, high-tech country and military with cars, rickshaws, motorcycles, bikes, gliders, horse-drawn carts, and small arms. It was utterly illogical, irrational, and irresponsible. Compare how, during the 1970s, fighters of the Palestinian Liberation Organization stood all along the frontier in southern Lebanon. They had a strong arsenal of Soviet and Chinese weapons, and they were able to do something more effective than what Hamas did on October 7th. Chairman Yasser Arafat's fighters struck northern Israel in human waves, but Arafat did not strike his head or our heads against a wall. Unlike Hamas, he was rational and wise. 4. What else compelled the October 7th attack? It was an Iranian attack implemented by Palestinian hands. Hamas is a proxy for Iran and its so-called axis of resistance. Since most average Palestinians do not and cannot support Hamas, it would not exist without years of hidden help from Iran. I believe Iran ordered their attack. There was also a religious motive behind it, based on Hamas fabricated mythical predictions and prophecies that theorize the imminent fall and vanishing of Israel. 5. Was there a further Iranian role in the attack? Yes. For a long time, Iran assisted its every aspect. Iran armed Hamas, helped to build their tunnels and military infrastructure, improved their rocketry, paid their fighters monthly salaries, and provided them and Islamic Jihad with training by their Revolutionary Guard on Iranian soil, in Lebanon, and in Syria. 6. Why did Iran foster the October 7th attack? Iran's aim is to be an equal peer among regional powers. As we are seeing, October 7th was only the beginning, as other Iranian proxies are joining the war and activating further fronts against Israel. Tehran wanted this multi-front war to sap Israeli strength by inflicting attrition on their military. Tehran has assumed that their hinterlands will be as far as possible from warfare, and that this war will busy and exhaust Israel, so Israel will no longer hinder development of their economy and of conventional and other weapons to protect it. Iran has decided to play the matador and wants to position Hamas, Hezbollah, the Houthis, and Iraqi Shiite militias as swords at the neck of the ox Israel. 7. Iran declares repeatedly that their actions defend Palestine and support its people's liberation. What is your view? Iran is lying. They never labored for the sake of Palestine, but on the contrary, have always exploited the Palestinian struggle for their own interests. Several decades ago, they tried to recruit Yasser Arafat's PLO as a proxy for their agenda, but he strictly refused. So Iran kept trying to motivate and enlist other Palestinian parties until they found Hamas willing to be a Persian puppet and loyal proxy. You'll recall that Iran's Khomeini in his orations threatened to remove Israel from the map by sweeping Israelis into the Mediterranean, while at the same time, he was receiving Israeli-aided shipments of arms in the scandal soon known as Iran-Contra. Historically, Iran has killed thousands of Palestinians in Lebanon, Syria, Iraq, and elsewhere. Iran has treated them brutally since Arafat refused to let Iran co-opt our people's struggle. At that time, our leaders turned instead toward support from Saddam Hussein. After the 2003 fall of Baghdad, however, Iranian Revolutionary Guards and Shiite militias set out to punish them. They killed, injured, abducted, raped, and tortured thousands of Palestinians in different cities, chasing and slaughtering them under the lie that they were Hussein's loyal servants. The most ridiculous lie from Iran is that they want to liberate Jerusalem and Al-Aqsa Mosque. In fact, Jerusalem and Al-Aqsa are not holy places in Shiite doctrines that do sanctify Najaf, Qom, and Karbala. In Shiite doctrine, Jerusalem is no more sacred than, say, Mongolia's far-off capital, Ulaanbaatar, and Al-Aqsa is equivalent to any Buddhist temple. 8. Can you clarify the religious motives behind October 7th? Religion should not drive any criminal attack, but I think some fabricated prophecies and religious superstitions motivate some Hamas fighters. Some of these heresies or intellectual drugs were produced by Muslim clerics, while others came from Hamas itself. One of those heresies is, quote, the curse of the 8th decade. It claims that Israel will fall during its 8th decade and will never reach its 9th. Some hallucinating persons, such as the intellectual Bassam Jarrah, are preaching that the fall of Israel is imminent, according to mathematical gematria calculations in the Quran. Hamas has also invented a crazy theory called the promise of hereafter. This term appeared often in the pre-October 7th era in Hamas media and partisan literature. Also, the late Hamas chairman Yahya Sinwar used this term as a title and topic for a big conference held in Gaza City. The promise of hereafter is that Israel will vanish very soon, and Hamas will reap the entirety of Palestine through a decisive war. End of part one. Thank you very much for listening. Muhammad sincerely welcomes your responses. We remind you of their agenda of hoping to emigrate from Palestine through our GoFundMe, noted and linked here in the links. And we'll see you again shortly for part two. Thank you very much. Peace through justice for everyone.